What's cracking? Welcome to Under the Foreskin, show dedicated to happenings of the SJU and Misfits fantasy football. My name is Kyle. I'm the head of football operations for the Potomac Pretenders, the 4-seed Potomac Pretenders, and I'm solo in the Under the Foreskin studios. But wait, we have our first phone-in of the season. The AC, the Buffalo Armadillos, number 2 wild card, Jack Chesky is in the house. He is the man which after Under the Foreskin is named. Jack, why don't you say hello to your fans?
Hello, fans. Just want to say Buffalo, we did it.
They did it. They are in the playoffs. We'll talk about how those Dillos got in the playoffs, how everyone else fared the last week of the regular season, and the first round of playoff matchups Jack and I will dissect. So here we go. Week 13 wrap-up. First headline reads, Rebuilding Pandas proved to be easy win and in for Smugglers. Sioux City 97, Poughkeepsie Pandas 67. Poughkeepsie Pandas finished their 2013 campaign at 4-9. CJ Spiller finally had his breakout game this week. Unfortunately, it was 12 weeks too late. And starting Mike Glennon proved to be a detriment to the Pandas this week against the number 1 defense, the Carolina Panthers in the NFL. So tough start there for Tyler. Thought he was going to go somewhere else on the waiver wire. Maybe he just checked out for the season, which benefited the Smugglers, who needed a win to get in this week. Reggie Bush, Rob Gronkowski, and AJ Green all had big days. Welker and Gio Bernard bringing up the rear once again. It's been a couple cold weeks in a row for Mr. Wes Welker and Mr. Giovanni Bernard. Roger is in the playoffs, team as a 5th seed. Next matchup. In a game about points, Dillos underwhelmed but do enough to take the second wild card. Like I said, Buffalo's in with a 75-73 win over the Polish Sausage Wallets. The Sausage Wallets needed to score some points to catch Jack's Buffalo Armadillos, but too many bad days out there on the field. Other than RG3, MJD, and Donald Brown all being in double figures, no one else showed up for the Sausage Wallets. For the Buffalo Armadillos, a lot of tough weeks this week. This is some point totals from his team. 3-3-4-0-0-5-3. But Jack, who saved your season this week?
One Mr. Josh Gordon comes in and saves the day. Caught a little slack at the draft, picking Gordon up for $9 when was going to miss the first 2 games of the season. I recall the president, CEO of the Baton Rouge Border Collies looking for a trade. I think he offered me Stevie Johnson. Very glad that I didn't take any motion there, as I would definitely not be in the playoffs without him.
Mr. Gordon has definitely been a gem on your team and has helped you win the last 3 weeks to get you in the playoffs. All right, next matchup, the Gnawbone Butte Pirates. They took on the Hollywood Hotties. Butte Pirates score early and often. Set date with Tin Whiskers in round 1. Gnawbone finishes the regular season 9-4 in the 2nd seed, and the Hollywood Hotties finished the season at 6-7. They were also looking to score some points this week to overtake the Buffalo Armadillos for their last wild card spot. They needed to outscore the Dillos by 23. They outscored them by 4. Obviously, that's not enough, and they missed the playoff by 19 points. That's a 1.5 for each week of the season, so pretty small margin there. Russell Wilson led the day again, 28 points. Nice game on Monday Night Football, and Shane Vereen had 12. But other than that, guys like Eddie Lacy and Zach Stacy, they didn't show up this week, and the Hotties needed them to in a big way. For the Butte Pirates, it was another good week. A lot of the normal guys came to play. They scored 118 points. Sweet Vernon Davis had a good game. Cam Newton played fine. Just a pretty solid effort up and down the lineup. DeMarco Murray with 3 touchdowns was the big winner, 27 points on Thanksgiving Day. Chernobyl Tin Whiskers and the Flint Tropics played this week. With both teams locked for playoffs, we're going to call it a tune-up. Chernobyl 146, Flint Tropics 108. I'm sure both teams would be ecstatic with that performance come the first round of the playoffs. Chernobyl, Peyton Manning 33, Alshon Jeffrey 38, 4 besides that in double figures. Jordy Nelson, Michael Bennett 1 point each. Pretty unreal, Jack, that he hit 146 points with 2 guys scoring 1 point. Nice team in Chernobyl. For the Tropics, Yeah. You know, we were bagging on him right at the beginning of the year. He stuck with his team. I'm not sure he made a trade all season. Stuck with his team, stuck with his gut feeling, and look where it got him. Second highest point scored in the league. It's the 7th seed, but you know he's feeling good as he waltzes into the playoffs. For the Flint Tropics, a nice week this week. Ben Tate, 29 points. Been waiting for that all season. Matthew Stafford, 19. Michael Floyd, 15. Andre Brown, 17. Not a lot of negatives this week for the Tropics outside of Jordan Cameron, who continues to struggle. The Waco Wrinkle Beasts and the Duluth Draft Dodgers played this week in the most meaningless game of the year. Not every Week 13 game can have meaning. See Waco, Duluth. Waco Wrinkle Beasts get the win, 92-49. Both teams finish at 2-11. Cam Newton, 26 points. Monte Ball, where you been since draft day? He scored 12 this week. Pretty much a tough week all around for the 49-point Duluth Draft Dodgers. Fortunately, they did not end up in last place because the tiebreaker is points scored, and they had more points over the entirety of the season versus the league. Next up, my Potomac Pretenders took on the Baton Rouge Border Collies. Headline reads, "Pack of Collies tear apart the Pretenders." 115-80 this week. My Pretenders fall. 8 players in double figures for the Baton Rouge Border Collies. This is scary consistent. Listen to these 8 players. 10 points, 11 points, 14 points, 15, 15, 15, 16, 16. That's tough to deal with that kind of consistency. Obviously added up to 115 total. If you don't have somebody who goes nuts, you're going to have a tough time winning those games. Stevie Johnson, the only negative on the team, 3 points, and he had a fumble late in the game, which actually knocked him from 5-3. For my Potomac Pretenders, Jamal Charles, 17, Torrey Smith, 15. Everyone else kind of in that 7, 8, 9 range, pretty ho-hum. With the exception of Ruben Randall, who scored 2 points, and a terrible start of Andy Dalton over the surging Nick Foles by me, myself, and I. Crapstone, business as usual. Trouser Snakes getting own way as usual. Listen to this. Tallahassee needing 50 more points than the Buffalo Armadillos to make the playoffs. They made a terrible mistake, one that definitely benefited you, Jack. They started Tavon Austin, who netted 3 points this week, in place of Eric Decker. I would say generally ranked much, much higher than Tavon on any website you look at, any radio show you listen to. Paul Charchi and Matthew Berry, any of those guys would tell you start Eric Decker and Peyton Manning over Tavon Austin and whoever the hell is playing quarterback in St. Louis right now. Decker scores 43. That would have put the Trouser Snakes to a grand total of 137, and he would have beat you by more than 50 points. Tallahassee would have been the A seed in the playoffs. So Dave gets it his own way. We've seen it before. I'm sure we'll see it again. You can't help but chuckle. For Crapstone, like I said, business as usual. 113 points this week. 6 players in double figures. McCown and AP both with 20 burgers. Garcon continues to struggle ever since being shipped from the Duluth Draft Dodgers. And Marshawn Lynch had a surprisingly tough game on Monday night against the Saints. Well, there wasn't any waiver wires really worth talking about. I mean, a couple crusts were traded for a couple crusts, but really it's going to come down to what rosters we've built throughout this season. So let's dig into it, Jack. Week 14 Pick'em. It's playoff edition. First up, Crapstone Prairie Dogs take on your Buffalo Armadillos. Jack, do you want to break down this game first, and I'll chime in after?
Sure. Just looking at this matchup, it's nothing the Dills haven't been up against before. Looking up and down the squad, pretty tough to find a weak spot. He did a great job coming out of the draft. It'd be nice to see Aaron Rodgers in there for him. Well, nice for Dunn anyway, not for myself.
Right.
But just a great looking team. Myself, feel pretty good about my running or my wide receivers, but my running back turmoil has been plaguing me all year. We'll see what happens with Stephen Ridley, but there's gonna have to be something going wrong for the Prairie Dogs for the Dillos to sneak past this year.
I think you might be right, Jack. I wrote on my notes here. I wrote pluses for the Prairie Dogs. Calvin at Philadelphia, Moreno versus Tennessee. Got to like both those players in both those games. I have a negative by Lynch at San Francisco and AP at Baltimore just because, yes, they're tough matchups, but it's Marshawn Lynch and Adrian Peterson. You're going to start them. They're probably going to be just fine. I have a negative by San Francisco D because they were chowed by Seattle earlier this year, but they still scored 9 points even though they got crushed in that game. So all of the Crapstone negatives really are more of question marks, and I think your best chance in this game is if Jay Cutler starts on Monday Night Football against Dallas, which would negate his Josh McCown play, which he has in there right now. And you could, in turn, take out Colin Kaepernick, if you dare, and put in Jay Cutler. Kaepernick plays Seattle. He's never had success before. They are at home, which helps. But that's a super tough matchup. We saw what they did to Drew Brees last week, for cripe's sake. And Cutler playing Dallas. Dallas is a terrible D, especially against the pass. And with those two receivers and the way they're playing right now, that could make the difference. I still think you're going to need some other miracles. I love D-Jax versus Detroit. I love Pat's D versus whoever the Cleveland quarterback is this week. They all have been struggling. And, you know, Josh Gordon, though, draws Aqib Talib. That's going to be tough this week playing against him. I still think Josh Gordon's a better player and will do just fine. But I think the key, will Jay Cutler play, which would knock McCown out. So my verdict, Crapstone has so much firepower, Jack, but so did the Sioux City Smugglers. I'm picking the Crapstone Prairie Dogs, but I'm keeping an eye on the turtleneck. Next up, the Gnawbone Butte Pirates. They take on the Chernobyl Tin Whiskers. V-Jax versus Buffalo. DeMarco at Chicago. Some nice matchups for Gnawbone. But Victor Cruz has been struggling since pretty much week 1. F-Jax has a tough matchup against Tampa Bay, although he's got it done all season. Gore against Seattle. Again, tough matchup, but Gore usually shows up against Seattle. And Carolina defense at New Orleans. Now, Seattle looked pretty good against them last week. Let's see if Carolina D is the real deal. Obviously, Drew Brees is a good start no matter who he's playing, unless he was playing Seattle, as we saw last week. And Vernon versus Seattle, you know, that's Collins' go-to guy. So, I mean, if Cutler is to be out, you're going to need Vernon to have a big day for the Butte Pirates, because that's going to spell points for Kaepernick. For Chernobyl, man, bad week to run into Chernobyl. Alshon, Dallas. Le'Veon, Miami, terrible run D. Mendenhall, St. Louis, terrible run D. Andre Johnson, Jacksonville. We just saw what your guy Josh Gordon did to him. Peyton versus Tennessee, or really whoever he plays, he's awesome. And Cincy D versus Indy. I got all positives on those matchups. I really couldn't find a negative. I found one question mark. Jordy Nelson plays Atlanta. Atlanta's terrible, but is Matt Flynn throwing the ball? Is that other guy, what's his name? Tolzien? I don't know. My verdict, tough week to run into the Whiskers. Good week to run into the Butte Pirates. I like the Whiskers in the seeded upset in this one. Your thoughts, Jack?
I got my little star written down here by the Whiskers as well. Kind of one of the things to keep an eye on, I thought, out of his lineup. His backs have been, you know, pretty mad this year, outside of Le'Veon Bell. But one thing to kind of keep in mind with Jordy Nelson, without Rodgers in the lineup, he's been doing pretty piss poor. He's averaging just under 6 points a week.
Yep, he sucks without Rodgers.
Yeah, that'd be about the only kind of downside I'm seeing for Vanis. Other than that, Butte Pirates, like you mentioned, they got some good backs in there, but some tough matchups.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I'm gonna have to go with the Tin Whiskers as well in this one.
Alrighty, it's a sweep for the Tin Whiskers, we think. Next up, Border Collies. They take on your Buffalo native Neil and the Flint Tropics. For Neil, being the 6th seed, he's starting Matthew Stafford at Philadelphia. You got to like that matchup. Des Bryant at Chicago. Andre Brown at San Diego. Denver D versus Tennessee. You got to like all those plays right there. Only negative I could really see for the Flint Tropics this week, Jordan Cameron has been struggling since about the 5th week of the season. He keeps throwing them out there. I'm not saying there's a lot of better options on the waiver wire, but that's definitely been a negative for his team. Couple question marks. Ben Tate was awesome last week. He didn't help the Flint Tropics win, but he helped the Flint Tropics put up a big number. But last time he played Jacksonville, he scored 0 points. That's got to be a concern for Neil. And he's got Harry Douglas in there right now over Bobby Rainey. Bobby Rainey finally draws a nice matchup after having 2 terrible tough ones the last couple weeks. I might go Bobby Rainey. Maybe Harry Douglas is a little safer to get him 7 points. Hard to say what he's shooting for with that one. And is Michael Floyd the real deal? He sure looks like it the last couple weeks, having Carson Palmer hurl him the ball, but we'll see this week. For the Border Collies, they looked real solid last week. He's starting Mr. Joe Flacco versus the Vikes. I like anyone playing against the Vikes. Forte versus Dallas, nice. Jimmy Graham. He's playing Carolina, but it almost doesn't matter. It's Jimmy Graham. And he's starting the Seattle D, who are playing San Francisco at home. They sure looked pretty good against the Saints last week. So if we're going on a week-to-week basis, Seattle looks like a solid play no matter what. Rashard Jennings, he's not concussed anymore, they're saying, but he's playing the Jets, who usually chow running backs for lunch. Brian Hartline is consistently 6 to 7 points. I think Jonas might need a bigger day out of him, though. Question marks are Roddy White. He had a nice game last week. Is he really back? And Demaryius Thomas. Is Eric Decker's flash in the pan last week? Is that going to be Demaryius this week? It generally seems like Peyton will pick out a receiver and just go nuts on him, whether it's Julius, whether it's Welker, whether it's Demaryius, whether it's Decker. He just finds a matchup he likes and goes crazy. Jonas is going to have to hope it's Demaryius' turn. Nice week for Flint. A little tougher for the Baton Rouge Quarter Collies. I think Flint is good. I think they have a good week, but I think the Border Collies are a touch better. Dogs in a tight one. Jack, what do you think?
I also think this game is going to be pretty tight. I think it's going to be the closest game of the week. But I'm going with the Tropics on this one. I like kind of watching the White versus Douglas element in there. Last week was White's first double-digit total all week or all year.
Yep.
And Douglas seems to be, trending downward since White's been back over the past few weeks. So it'll be interesting to see where that goes. Other than that, Jason's running backs are looking pretty crisp. Rashad's been good the past 5, but like you said, he's up against the Jets. Forte is always a huge stud, and the Seattle D is like having another running back position if you have him on your bench. So
absolutely,
great matchup. Pretty much, you just automatically start them. Other than that, the Tropics got some sneaky good running backs in Andre Brown and Tate, so we'll see how they can do this week. As you mentioned, Tate had trouble with Jacksonville's pass. Not sure if that had to do more with what's his face, the running back out of Texas that's been hurt all year.
Mr. Arian Foster.
Mr. Arian Foster's status, or Tate just not performing. But I'm going to go with the Tropics in this matchup on a tight one.
Alrighty. My Potomac Pretenders, the 4 seed. They're hosting the Sioux City Smugglers this week. My Pretenders, Nick Foles, no more mistakes. He's going to be in the lineup from here on out. He plays Detroit. It's a juicy matchup. Detroit gets killed by the pass. Torrey Smith plays Minnesota. I have to say, normally I'd be so excited about Torrey Smith playing the Vikings, but that new corner the Vikings have, Xavier Rhodes, he shut down Brandon Marshall last week. I'm really hoping Chris Cook covers Torrey Smith this week. I don't think that's the case. So I'm a little nervous on Torrey, but optimistic at the same time because they throw him the ball all the time, especially lately. Riley Cooper, he's been nothing but trouble since I picked him up. He plays Detroit. I'm hoping we get a little 10-point combo at least once between Foles and Cooper. And Jamal Charles at Washington. I'm really going to lean on Jamal this week to go crazy against the terrible Washington defense. I'm going to need 20-plus out of Jamal. So, Jamal, maybe I'll tweet you later, but I need you, buddy. Because LaShawn McCoy, my other stud, he plays Detroit, and Detroit is freakishly good against the run. I'm really hoping that Mr. McCoy can get a swing pass or something, break a long one, because I don't think he's going to have a lot of success running up the gut. And, of course, the biggest negative on my team, my flex position. Losing Doug Martin, I lost some depth because I had to trade him away. And right now I got Ruben Randall in there. I'm not going to tell you I feel great about it because I don't. I got some other options, Joik Bell, which would be interesting as the Smugglers do have Reggie Bush. I got, a couple tight ends that I don't feel great about, so it's tough to see me starting them. I got Michael Crabtree, who I'd love to put in there, but he plays Seattle, and I don't know, I don't feel good about that either. So I got a decision to make, probably a little bit of tinkering Sunday morning. My tight end roulette continues. That's a question mark. Clay Miller, hopefully Dennis Pitta will be back. I'd love to start him against the Vikes. And the KCD, another big question mark for my Pretenders. Do they show up? Last week they scored a touchdown and saved themselves 8 points. That would be nice again. Hopefully RG3 has one shitty-ass game and, maybe gets benched for that guy behind him. That would be good because I would like to see KC put up some points for me. They won me a lot of games early in the season, and that would be much welcomed again. For the Smugglers, AJ Green, he used to be a pretender. I can't say I feel great about staring across the line of scrimmage in this first-round fantasy matchup. Gronk is a beast, obviously, versus anyone. Huge advantage for Sioux City in the tight end category. And James Jones versus Atlanta. He also hasn't seen the big games since Aaron Rodgers has left, but Atlanta's really bad, so hard to say. He could have 20 points or he could have 3 points. I'm hoping 3, but I wouldn't be surprised at 20. Negatives for the Smugglers, not a ton. Reggie Bush outside on grass usually has struggled, and this year's numbers have once again proved it. Outside of the Cleveland games, he's had less than double digits in every game outside on grass. Question marks, Tony Romo's struggled lately. Who knows how he does? He plays the Bears, which should be a good matchup for him. Is it Wes Welker's turn? I talked about the Denver wide receiver roulette game that Peyton plays. I wish Welker would have the big week last week because then I'd feel better that he wasn't going to have another one. Gio, again, used to be a pretender. Terrifying to be staring back at him. He can go nuts at any time. And Oakland versus New York Jets, I was pretty jealous to see Roger had the Raiders already on his lineup. Maybe Geno Smith bounces back this week, or maybe he just plays like shit again and Oakland scores a lot of points. So I think one of two things are going to happen. I think the Potomac Pretenders are going to have a nice week. I think I'll probably get to 100 points. I feel fairly good about getting to 100 points. Now, the Sioux City Smugglers, I could see them putting up 65, 70 points, or I could see them putting up 130. So one of those two things is going to happen. I think whoever wins is going to win by 30 points. I'm hoping it's my Pretenders, and I'm picking my Pretenders. I know that was a lot of explanation for one little matchup, but Jack, do you have anything to add?
I do. Kind of looking over Rogers' lineup, up and down again. He's got solid guys. Like you mentioned, though, Wes Welker's been, not doing very well. Recently, James Jones obviously suffering with Aaron Rodgers out. Tony Romo draws a touch matchup against Chicago, but you never know. Denver D is pretty good, and we all saw what happened in that game. So, that being said, looking up and down the Pretenders, Riley's had some flashes of brilliance. You never know when that little racist will just come out and give you 30 points. Ruben Randall hasn't had more than 3 receptions since week 5 of the season. Again, like you mentioned, you'll probably do some tinkering, but I'm not crazy about that matchup. But then again, I'm not crazy about James Jones either. So up and down, they're pretty close. I'm tending towards the Potomac Pretenders. Nick Foles has been such a stud this year. Like you said, Torrey Smith at Minnesota, and then Jamal Charles and LaShawn McCoy. Just disgustingly good combo of running backs there. So we'll see what happens, but I'm definitely I'm leaning towards the Pretenders in this one.
Aw, thanks, Jack. That means a lot. Well, that's it for Under the Foreskin, Week 14, 2013 playoffs, Week 1. Thank you, Jack, for joining. Anything else you'd like to say?
No, that's it. Good luck to all the squads in the toilet bowl. I've never partaken, so I don't know how that really works, but enjoy.
Well, it's not fun down there. It stinks, to be honest. Well, that said, thank you very much for tuning in to Under the Foreskin this week. As always, follow us on Twitter at SJU Misfits and on YouTube, youtube.com/SJU and Misfits. Until next week, good talk. See you out there.